You must always start by reading the requirement. All these case study questions, you start by reading all the requirements, and even if possible, try to underline, but don't write anything in your exam paper. Don't write anything in your exam paper. It's against exam policy. So suggest 5 reasons why the leadership of 𝐿𝐴𝐻𝐶𝐸 Limited seems to be spearheading the company in the right direction. Why do you think, in this case, ladies and gentlemen, is this company really, or rather is the management of this company, spearheading this company to the right direction? I mean, what are the efficiencies that you're able to see in the case question? Discuss how the branch and departmental heads of ML could apply transformative leadership style to gain employee commitment. Transformative. See, in order to control the cost of production, ML shifted from labor-intensive to capital-intensive strategy. Explain the cost that ML might have incurred during the restructuring process. When you're restructuring, you're moving, in this case here, from one strategy to another strategy. You're moving from one production process to another different production process. I mean, there must be restructuring. What are some of the costs that in this case here you incurred, for example, at the tail end of one of the old strategy? D, in most organizations, employees resist change, especially when their jobs are at risk. Examine 5 strategies that the management of ML could have adopted to overcome resistance to change. For example, I can decide to incentivize, right? Give incentives to some employees. Training is another way of reducing this resistance, because at times these employees resist simply because they may not be knowing exactly what is ahead of them because of the change. I'll be able to see that. E, assess 5 ways in which the political environment under which ML was operating could have influenced leadership and management practices. Political environment. Assess 5 ways in which the political environment under which ML was operating could have influenced leadership and management practices at ML. I can see so many charts here. Okay. Which year? Okay. The question. Have they gotten this question paper really? It's December 2021, question 1. Have they gotten this question of 𝐿𝐴𝐻𝐶𝐸 Limited? 𝐿𝐴𝐻𝐶𝐸 Limited, 𝐿𝐴𝐻𝐶𝐸 Limited. And then we have E, of course, I've read this. So now I've been able to synthesize the questions. Then I'll now be able to go to my case question. 𝐿𝐴𝐻𝐶𝐸 Limited is a prominent company in cement production and has been in business for over 10 years, controlling the market almost in a monopolistic way. The company has project managers in its 6 branches, with each branch employing approximately 8 workers. So we have project managers. Project management is a key cog of running a company effectively. You need project managers. The CEO of 𝐿𝐴𝐻𝐶𝐸 Limited has twice been voted as the best performer in the corporate sector category in various award ceremonies. So meaning that we have got an effective CEO. I mean, when we have our CEO, like the CEO of Equity Bank, I mean, being voted as the best in the banking industry in various, in this case, automatically, if this guy is being felt by the entire market to be among the best in the industry, then for sure he'll be able to spearhead the company in the right direction. We are told in this case in various award ceremonies, for managerial positions, the company recruits a higher than average persons with formal training and who have experience in respective fields. It is also compulsory for new heads of departments to be coached. So they have a coaching program. You can never go wrong, ladies and gentlemen, if you have got a formal coaching, stroke mentorship program in the company. This automatically will ensure that your company is spearheaded in the right direction. or, but at least now we have the question with us. At least I'm able to share the question. I'm sorry for that. And now I'm discussing this. Ladies and gentlemen, we are told also here that the CEO of Maxcom Limited always encourages branch and departmental heads to embrace the firm's culture of adopting a transformative leadership approach in order to gain employee commitment. The company's culture and ethical leadership practice is further emphasized during leadership trainings organized for managers and departmental heads during every financial year. In the last 1 year, Maxcom Limited has faced unpredictable challenges where more firms have joined cement production, hence reducing its market share. Due to this competitive pressure, the company has embraced the latest technology to try and reduce the cost of production and shift from labor-intensive to capital-intensive approach. Ladies and gentlemen, again, the fact that these guys have been able to embrace the very latest technology, that tells me that for sure, the company is being spearheaded in the right direction. As a consequence, the manpower in most of the company branches has been reduced, a process that is painful for managers and, of course, employees. The overall aim of restructuring is to maintain clarity and consistency in pursuing the company's vision. At least they have a vision. When you have a vision, of course, that tells me that this company is being run in the right direction while still being competitive in a highly charged political environment. So from your own understanding, in your own words, is there somebody who can suggest any reason that makes you guys, I'm trying to answer here, that makes you guys believe that the leadership of this company seems to be spearheading the company in the right direction? Somebody in your own language, could you kindly type very fast, what do you think makes you believe that this company is being spearheaded by the management of this entity in the right way, So I'm giving you exactly 5 minutes. So remember again, as you write, so many students, as we mark these papers, really do not explain. They don't know how to increase the meat in their discussion. Like, for example, one of these key things that makes me believe that this company is being spearheaded in the right direction, ladies and gentlemen, is the fact that there is what we call technological adaptation. We've seen a situation where they have adopted the latest technology, where now they're shifting from labor-intensive to capital-intensive production. All right? So this automatically shows that the management is willing, ladies and gentlemen, here to go through whichever ways to navigate this intense competitive environment to ensure that we succeed, to ensure that we should be able to hit our long-term objective. So by the fact that these guys have been able to adopt latest technological advancements, then that shows that for sure there is good governance in this entity. I can't see you guys giving me your points. I was trying to just explain one point so that I could give you a chance. I can see you guys have here, like Maurice tells me, employment of qualified staffs in the respective fields in the farm. Thanks, Faustin. Adoption of new technology, training of employees, transformative leadership. The company has got a vision. I love that. Shifting from labor-intensive to capital-intensive simply to be able to cut on costs. I like that. Embracing technology, hiring above-average employees. Above-average employees, ladies and gentlemen, in this case here, if you allow me, then to just mention this, like now, adoption of transformative leadership has been given to us. What is transformative leadership? Transformative leadership, transformative comes from the word transform. And then, ladies and gentlemen, remember that under transformative leadership, we would simply want to transform both the entity and the individual. How do we transform the individual? By inspiring them, inspiration. So basically, transformative leadership aims to inspire and motivate employees by fostering a sense of purpose and personal growth. Ladies and gentlemen, there is no way I can call myself a transformative leader if I do not, in this case here, change my organization for the better, if I don't change my employees for the better. And I can only do that by motivating. When I talk of transformative leaders in this world, ladies and gentlemen, of course, I will be able to remember the great Steve Jobs. I mean, Steve Jobs is one case study of a leader that we have who was able to change people from just being cleaners to becoming, in this case here, directors in his company by training them and ensuring that he was motivating them, giving these guys, in this case here, like good bonuses if they were able to hit some levels. So any company that sees to the employees growing, sees in this case here product diversification all through like that, we are changing the company, we are changing the employees by motivating these employees, then that means that we are spearheading this company to the right direction. So adoption of transformative leadership and encouraging the adoption of a transformative leadership approach will automatically make everybody to be proactive, and then that means that we shall be working towards what here? Towards prosperity, Ladies and gentlemen, we have recruitment and training. We are recruiting above average individuals. That automatically means that if we are tapping onto the very best, the cream of the society to become our employees, then automatically we shall be able to go to prosperity. Then we have a long-term what here? Vision. The company in this case here has a long-term vision and they seem to be consistent about it. Don't forget the coaching and the mentorship. They have a coaching and a mentorship program. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if you allow me, I'll be able to go to the second question. And this second question is quite an easy one. What have they asked us to do in this second question? They have asked us to discuss how the branch and the departmental heads of the ML could apply transformative leadership style to gain employee commitment. I mean, how do we motivate these guys? How do we incentivize them to grow as individuals and to even give us better ideas of growing the company? So in this part B, what would have you guys written there? Discuss how the branch and departmental heads of ML could apply transformative leadership style to gain employee commitment. I'm giving you exactly 3 minutes. 3 minutes. I'm giving you 3 minutes. How do you apply this transformative leadership style to gain employee commitment? To gain employee commitment. 2 minutes are over. I've not seen anybody, even a single student really. Yeah, I can now see some communication there. Offering training, I love that. Training and promotions, I love that. Coaching and mentorship, I love that. Active listening. Joanne, I'm telling you, it's only that right now, the dates are not very good. The dates are not very good. Where I work, we are normally paid by the 21st. Even at RCM Online College, we pay salaries at the 21st. So I'm already broke. If I had money today, Joanne, I would have given you straight away some, say, 1,000 bob. 1,000 bob. 1,000 bob. Now, ladies and gentlemen, remember the 14 principles of management. 14 principles of management. As given to us by this guy called who? Fayol. And this one, I've always mentioned this to you severally. We have the concept of what here? Do you remember them? That, you see, USSR. Oh, I do what here? Oh, I see. Oh, I see. Oh, I see. Oh, I see. So when we talk about, remember D, I hope you guys are able to remember these 14. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. There are 14 in total. There are 14 in total. So like now we need what we call disciplined workers. Disciplined workers. Division of labor, if you can remember. I know you know these things very well, right? We have, for example, remuneration. We have, for example, initiatives, etc. We have here teamwork, cooperation. Ladies and gentlemen, if you recall, Fayol was among those leaders who spoke very, very loudly about transformative leadership. Transformative leadership. And a transformative leadership, this organization could be very small, like now RCM. We are still under the SMEs. But I mean, myself as the principal of RCM, I have a very big vision. I would want, in this case, as I get into my retirement, which I pray I should be able to retire at about 55. As I get into my retirement, I should be able to offload RCM's ordinary shares to the market and sell so many shares. All right? Be the first college, in this case, to be publicly listed. All right? So with that kind of a vision, so number one, if it's transformative leadership, then number one, we must always have a very clear vision. And this vision, you must ensure that you are always training your workers about it. You're always mentioning it to your workers. Always have it all over, even in washrooms. Have vision there. That whenever workers are traveling around, moving around the organization, they should be able to see the vision. Transformative leadership is about that. Very, very important. The vision has to be very, very clear. Number two, then how do we move from this small entity to reach our vision? We must grow with our workers. We must grow with them. How do we grow with them? We must incentivize. It should not reach a level where, ladies and gentlemen, remember this R stands for what here? Remuneration. It should never reach a level where we as directors are growing, and then we have our employees, in this case here, working from Mother North all the way to industrial area where the farm, for example, is based, by foot. They're walking. They can't simply afford bus fare, right? And then the directors are moving, in this case, with the heavy machines, with the Prados, the etc. We must get away of incentivizing these employees, have, in this case here, great bonus schemes. If you want, in this case, ladies and gentlemen, everything to change, remember, transformative is about what you're changing. The company must change for the better, and these employees must also change for the better. So in terms of incentivizing them, ensure that they are also equipped to be able to work well. We must invest in this organization by buying assets as we grow. As our sales grows, we need to put aside some percentage of that money to be buying equipment. So that we can, in this case here, for example, when there is disruption in the market, we should be able to acquire the latest, in this case here, kind of technology advancements. Because, I mean, which employee would want to work in those old archaic ways throughout? No. Like now we believe that as we grow, it should reach a level where Mwalimu does not have to stand as he teaches. I should be able to get a good tablet, where in this case here, I do my write-ups like this, and the same should be projected to students. They should be able to see. Employees, when you enable them to acquire tools of trade that are, of course, sophisticated and modern, then they will be able to feel that they are doing the right thing. They'll be able to produce much faster. Efficiencies will go up. So we have the concept of tools. We have the concept of you coaching these employees. We have the concept of you can forget about everything. But please don't forget that when you talk of transformative leadership, we have a vision. And this vision must be spelled out. We have the concept of what here? The concept of you incentivizing. Very, very important. Grow with these guys here. All right? Always tap talents here within the organization. If, for example, you're hiring for some head of department, you're looking for a head of department, before you go outside, always try to ask whether there is anybody internally who can handle these positions. Promote your people. That's one of the ways of incentivizing them. This is very important. Always, if you want to transform the entire organization, have a very, very strong feedback system. Very strong feedback system in the organization. Listen to your employees. I like what Joanne said, listen to these employees. Ladies and gentlemen, form what we call the quality circles. Quality circles. I hope you guys know what quality circles are. I hope where you guys are working, you normally make use of these quality circles. Quality circles, you get employees from different departments, put them into some kind of a discussion forum where every day, if not every day, like once every month, they should be able to sit down and say, hey, we did this thing this way in our department, but we believe if we did it like this, we would have been able to produce much faster. This is where we saw, in this case here, loss of what here? Loss of time, for example. If we do, so if you have those kind of guys who come to discuss such kind of things like once in a month, and then whenever they come up with good ideas, initiatives here, remember this I stands for initiatives here, then you should be able to do what, ladies and gentlemen, you should be able to reward these guys. If you do that, then everything in this organization will be transformed. So then you should have a very strong bond with your employees. There must be a lot of order in the company. Order must be there in the company. There must be a lot of what here, esprit de corps, cooperation, teamwork in the company. Teamwork in the company. So then I should be able to now see what you guys have there in terms of transformative leadership. I don't know which notes you have been able to take because, again, I'm going to share this video with you. But I expect you guys to have a few of these things, like setting a clear vision. Open communications within the company. Supporting development of employees. Supporting development of employees. Of course, we're looking at the skills advancement. Recognition and rewards. Recognition and rewards. And the open communication, you can describe whatever you wish there, the concept of employees raising ideas, what we call initiatives, concerns within the company, in this case here, to be addressed, feedback, openly shared. I mean, we should have some level of what here, engagement. And then please never forget this one, the concept of what here, empowerment of what here, decision making. Empowerment of decision making. Empower various people here to make decisions. Empower various people to make what here, to make decisions. Ladies and gentlemen, this thing of, and that is why, especially when you get this kind of a question, like organizations that are quite patriarchal, where we have family businesses that are dependent on the father. Like now you saw yesterday, 𝒃𝒆𝒔𝒕's family sold the iconic Yaya Center. That is quite unfortunate. Why do you think that happened? It's because 𝒃𝒆𝒔𝒕 and the family, the mother, the wife, these guys here were not teaching their children how to do business. Remember, like if it's an Indians, whenever they hit 14 years, whenever their parents are sitting down in decision-making, like boardrooms, they invite those kids. All right? So it's important, ladies and gentlemen, that if it's RCM online college and I do not want, for example, to offload shares later on, it's important that we get to involve our family members. And if it's not even about family members, in your company, there are those people that you know that have grown in the company. Once you call them heads of departments, then there are those decisions that you should expect them to be making. And then they bring them to you without you having, because if you are shouldering everything yourself, then there is very little you can do as a human being. Remember, as human beings, ladies and gentlemen, we are quite limited. We are quite limited. We are quite limited. We'd want a situation where we devolve decision-making. If you want transformation, and you should never fear bringing people who are better than you in the company. Bring in talent. Bring in talent. Now, ladies and gentlemen, will you allow me to go to the next question? Will you allow me to go to the next question? I hope you've been able to take now your notes. High level, high level. This dad you see, USSR, OIC, I expect you guys to also assist each other. This is the kind of cooperation we're talking about. In the group that we have there, I expect somebody to send the full meaning of this dad. You see USSR, unity of command, etc, 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 etc. Great. So will you allow me to go to the next question, great students of mine? Remember, mine is high level. And to ensure that whatever we discuss here, if you get it in an exam, then you will be able to pass. Because I don't want you to start memorizing. I don't want you to start like writing so many notes. No, no, no. These guys are not talking to me. They're not giving me way forward here. Or would you rather I give you like notes you start writing down? Would you rather Mwalimu writes notes for you? Hello, are we together? I would rather we go the high level, yes. The high level so that we can cover like 5 past papers. If you can cover like 5 past papers by the end of this low-hanging fruits, all of you will pass. Like the students that I taught LM last semester, low-hanging fruits, they came back to me, told me, great. So please allow me to move on. Great. So we go to the next question. So that's Roman 3 of question 1, December 2021. So what do we have there? So ladies and gentlemen, we are asked a very, very simple question here. They have asked us a very simple question indeed. In order to control the cost of production, ML shifted from labor-intensive to capital-intensive strategy. Explain the cost that ML might have incurred during the restructuring process when they were moving from this to that. What are some of the costs, ladies and gentlemen, that you think they may have incurred? When they move from this labor-intensive to, ladies and gentlemen, in this case here to capital-intensive machines, basically, of course, they must have laid off workers. If they laid off workers, we expect them to have incurred these retrenchment costs. Retrenchment costs. Ladies and gentlemen, if they changed from labor-intensive to capital-intensive, I can see them incurring a huge capital outlay of buying machines. Now, ladies and gentlemen, when they change to machines, I can see them incurring a huge expense called training. There must be workers, of course, who will not be retrenched, but they'll be moved from one department to another. There are costs associated with redeployment. Redeployment, because you must, in this case, I mean, you're taking these guys here to different roles. Different roles. Ladies and gentlemen, I can see a lot of idle time costs. When I'll be paying guys, some guys, not all of them, some guys salaries, and yet they're not working simply because I've said, I'm assigning you this new role that I would expect you to be doing blah, 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 work with these machines, but because you don't know, I mean, you are still on my payroll. I've already mentioned something to do with severance pay. Severance pay, because you're going to lay off some workers. I've mentioned something to do with technology investment because you're going capital intensive, means that you're buying new machines. You're buying new machines. So at a high level, what points have you been able to take down there during the structuring process? Which points have you been able to take down the high level? Just one word, one word, one word, one word, for me to know whether you're together. One word. Rate, training, technology, investment costs, cost of buying new machines, idle time cost, and then always try to explain, not now, but in your exams. I would want to see you guys putting meat. You start like with a small bone, but put meat into this discussion. Try to mention the name of the company. If you want to weave your answers together with the question, the case study, you must always try to, in this case here, bring in like ML is going to incur training costs during restructuring. ML will have to buy new machines if they endorse this capital, capital, or rather capital intensive strategy. So you keep on mentioning ML, 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 because we are told in the case study questions, you must try to weave our answers to the case question, our answers to the case question. Thank you so much. So if you allow me, I'll be able to move to the next question. So the next question, ladies and gentlemen, here, asked as a very simple question. I've never understood. By the way, you'll have to tell me why people fail in leadership. You'll have to tell me why people fail in leadership. Remember when they tell you 10 marks, you have to give us 5 very well explained points in paragraph form. E, assess 5 ways in which the political environment under which ML was operating could have influenced leadership and the management practices at ML. Let me see what you guys would have answered there. Let me see what you guys would have answered there really, really. This is a very easy question. This is a very easy question. How the political environment will affect leadership and the management practices. Like now, trust you me, once in this case here, we had the Kenya Kwanza government taking over against our expectations. Trust you, ladies and gentlemen, there are businesses that lost big time. There are businesses in this case here that really gained big time. Remember, when new governments, which of course constitute the bigger political angle here, come over, they'll have to introduce like new ways of doing things. Like now they're doing a lot of resource allocations. Like during Uhuru's time, we had a lot of resources being given to TVET, given a lot of resources. Right now we can see Kenya Kwanza government really is taking, in this case here, most of the resources here to the universities and even coming up with a new funding model like that. So yes, political environment here can really shape up your leadership style. especially like now this transformative. Because when we had these kind of changes, ladies and gentlemen, then we expect things to change. Otherwise, we will be swept under the carpet. We'll be swept under the carpet. So in terms of really political environment changing us, we have got so many things to look at, that this politics here can open doors for what here, for new entrants. For new entrants. Like now the Kenya Kwanza government can come and say, hey, no to sugar. I don't know whether it's because of whatever now sugar is. You know, those change of policies. So it means as an organization, you must really be very fit for you to survive. And the very best way of surviving then is to adopt this transformative leadership where you bring in everybody, to come and help you do what here, run the business. So read the question again, read the question again, read the question again, read the question severally. A good student will always read the question severally before you start writing. So like now here, they have asked us a very, very simple question. What they have asked us is to assess 5 ways in which the political environment under which ML was operating could have influenced leadership and management practices at ML. So if you read here, apart from these unpredictable challenges, whatever, there is nowhere where these guys mentioned anything to do with politics. So basically, this was to come out of your imaginations, All right. Of course, the moment you appreciate what politics is all about, then you'll be able to really know what to write. So for example, here, the first thing that I will do is to address the concept of what here? Market competition. That most probably in this case here, we had a situation where the government lifted the economy and they put it up there for competition. They were able to accept new entrants to join us. That's why we are seeing of late, new companies are coming on board. So the concept of competition, this is a political thing. We have regulations, ladies and gentlemen. Regulations, of course, we expect new regulations, in this case here, to affect how MAXCOM, ML, is run. We have resource allocation. That in this case here, because of politics, of course, we have resources being allocated from one sector to another, new changes here and there. So resource allocation, political decisions can impact resource availability, for example, affecting MAXCOM. And that is why MAXCOM is embracing this transformative leadership. So like right now, for so long, those of us who knew about these timber business, we used to plant, and grow great timber. We used to sell heavily. But right now with the Kenya Kwanza government lifting the ban on logging from our forests, in the short term, like the next 2-3 years before they finish those trees, I'm so sure our prices will really go down. So that's the concept of regulations and policies. So once that happens, then it is that company that is adopting like now this transformative style of leadership that will be able to thrive. Otherwise, under tough regulations, ladies and gentlemen, you cannot, in this case here, do what here? Survive. Ladies and gentlemen, whenever we have got these political influences in businesses, there is what we call public perception. How are you being perceived? Like I remember Ruto the other day, this gentleman came and told us there is a lady in Kura. That this lady is very, very corrupt. So in this case here, the moment a head of state comes and says that kind of a thing, who will do business with you in the future? Nobody. So politics, in this case here, political influences, people can come and look at, for example, Brookside and say, this thing is bad. Trust you me, when somebody comes and says that this thing is bad, over 20% of the customers here can easily run away. So then how will you be able to survive? How will you be able to survive? So this was quite a technical question, but from whatever I've explained, ladies and gentlemen, then automatically somebody who is bright, when you talk of political environment, always try even to figure that out with things to do with the economy. Because again, politics influences what here? The economy, like taxation laws. All right. We'll have to, change how the company is being done, what is being managed. All right. Environmental laws will always have, in this case here, for example, an effect to do with what here. You can think about this question from what we call the 𝒃𝒆𝒄 model in general. The 𝒃𝒆𝒄 model in general, because politics, ladies and gentlemen, normally the political environment will influence most of those other tools of components of 𝒃𝒆𝒄. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you don't mind, I would request that we take a break of how many minutes? And for sure, there is this question that we had skipped. Part D of this paper asked us a very simple question that every student should have gotten. In most organizations, employees resist change, especially when their jobs are at risk. Examine 5 strategies that the management of ML could have adopted to overcome resistance to change. This one I don't even have to really even leave you to think about it. I shall just be able to give you answers straight away. So strategies to overcome resistance to change. Ladies and gentlemen, even in your home, when you're introducing as a father, you're introducing new ways of doing things. Like myself, I remember I wanted my people to move from my home, or rather our home, right? Which was basically done, a good home done in our own compound. So I looked at the situation, nice area, but I was always fearing insecurities, trying to bring in dogs and so many bad things simply to scare away, thieves, etc. No. So I wanted to take these guys here to an apartment. All right. So apartment, apartment is the way to go. Even the new government now said people should be living in apartments. So one of the ways that I really used to communicate, especially my wife, who was very resistant, is proper communication. So I had to really communicate. In this case, I tell her the advantages slowly. And of course, I was able to showcase success stories. So like I work for a Swedish organization. I took her, for example, to my CEO's home, and she was able to see that this big CEO, he's also living in an apartment. It's the way to go. But you are sharing most of the resources, in this case here, all of you. So at the end of the day, you don't need a soldier to stay outside there. So showcase success stories. Very, very important. So under showcasing success stories, get organizations that adopted this kind of a technology and then they succeeded big time. Mention them. Ladies and gentlemen, whenever there is a big change, which these employees are trying to resist, at times because they are really fearing that their jobs may go, these guys may need a lot of counseling. They may need support. So support and counseling is key. If you'd want to if you'd want, in this case here, to break the ice, then you need to support and counsel these people. Emotional support can really help these guys here cope with any uncertainties to change. Then never forget the concept of training. Very important. Training is one of the ways of breaking these resistance to change ice. You train these guys. If they have been fearing using these machines, then automatically they realize that these machines are being moved by people, then that will be very easy. Lastly, from this dad, you see USSR, ladies and gentlemen, these employees would always feel nice, feel appreciated if you involve them in every step of your decision making. Do this, call them. Tell them, what do you guys think about this? They'll even end up giving you new ideas. It gives them that sense of what you're belonging. So I'm so sure you guys have got very, very many ideas, which you can also put into this. Assure them, yes, you can see assure them of the security to their job. Facilitation and support, I love this. Involve employees in decision making, I love this. Thank you so much. What do you mean? Is there Joshua Aura somewhere? Is there Joshua Aura somewhere who is also trying to answer? This is crazy. Okay, great, great. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we move to the next question. But before I go to the next question, can somebody tell me something small to do with Elton Mayo? Are you able to remember the Elton Mayo's experiment? Elton Mayo's experiment. This guy did this experiment a long time ago in America, in a company known as General Electric, which has even a branch in Kenya here, General Electric, GE. GE has got very many plants. So he was doing this at the Houghton's plant in the US. So he took some ladies. So we had some two groups of these ladies here. The ones in this case here who were under study, experimentation. What this guy was doing, or rather the company, was of course engaged in what we call sewing activity, sewing. So he just wanted to study a few things and see the effect that they had in the productivity of this lady. So he went ahead, he was just trying crazy things. He increased the lighting in the room. When he increased the lighting in the room with increased light, productivity went up. So and he was making changes here and he was realizing productivity was going up. So then he was in the process of concluding that what matters most is the working conditions, hygienic conditions. That if the conditions are hygienic, then at the end of the day, the company's productivity will always go up. And then without notice, this was abrupt, so not something that he had planned. We had a total power blackout, total darkness. So in darkness, what really do you think happened? He expected the productivity of these ladies here to go down to zero. Because, you know, they were sewing. So sewing, in this case here, these guys were using, there were needles there. They were trying to, I mean, how could they even see in darkness? But now, ladies and gentlemen, remember that when we had this power blackout, Elton Mayo himself, 𝐂𝐸, we call him 𝐂𝐸, very serious guy, very serious scientist. He called all these ladies here to a meeting and told them, you guys, we have a power blackout. What do you expect us to do? Do you expect us to close shop and, you know, this place is at 24? No, they said, no, we don't know how it's going to be, but we don't think closing really is an option. We would rather produce goods, even if it's just 10%, but let us just remain behind so that we don't know when this power will come back. It may come back in an hour's time. It never came the whole night. But again, when Elton Mayo, in this case here, came there in the morning, or rather went to assess the productivity, he realized that in darkness, the productivity of those ladies went up 3 times. And Elton Mayo was able to ask them, each one of them individually, what made you guys, in this case here, produce more than what was expected? What made you exceed the expectations here? Then they told him one nice thing, that, you know what, Elton Mayo, you involved us in this decision. Elton Mayo, when this kind of work was going on, you sat there and stayed there the whole night with us. And that is why Elton Mayo came and realized and penned a very, very big article, a very, very big school of thought that is being discussed up now. It's now contemporary. We call this one the School of Human Relations. But what matters most is not the money that you're paying these people. It is a respect. It's involving these workers. It is incentivizing them. It's recognizing them. So he came up with what we call School of what here? School of Human Relations. School of Human Relations. What you went ahead to coin as empathy, So these will be very, very important for us to always, if you don't have these kind of models in your mind when you're answering leadership and management questions, then you cannot really score highly. You can't score highly. Empathy is different from sympathy. So under sympathy, I will come and see this is a poor man. Perhaps in this case, this man is disabled. He's sitting there with some begging bowl. So if I'm sympathetic, it automatically means that, yes, I'll be able to feel that, this guy is disadvantaged. And of course, I'll be able, to pity him. But you see, what will I do? I'll simply pass by without helping at all. That's what we call sympathy. But you see, empathy is much deeper. Empathy is much deeper. It goes to that extent where you put yourself in that man's shoes and ask yourself, if I were the one with this begging bowl down here, what would have I expected the world to do to help me? And then you go ahead and do exactly that. You help. So if you read through this literature, 𝐿𝐻𝐼𝐴 was able to help. They could use even torch. It was going around trying to get the problems of these ladies here. How can I help you as your manager? Very, very important. Don't look down upon anyone. Very important. 𝐿𝐻𝐼𝐴, the School of what here? Human Relations, / empathy. 𝐿𝐻𝐼𝐴, 𝐒𝐵MAIO, Hawthorne's experiment. And then as I go back to this paper, there is also something that I would always want you guys to remember, what we call the Gilbreth's couple. The Gilbreth's couple. Now, ladies and gentlemen, as I go back to my questions, remember outside here, so many people, so many couples are really fighting over nothing, really. Fighting over nothing, something small. You are snoring, you are doing this and this, fighting over petty things. And yet, we have some serious couples like the Gilbreth's couple that sat together. And they were able, in this case, to come up with a very strong model, which is being used outside here and being mentioned whenever we talk over modern organizations in terms of how do we lead a company? How do we manage a company? So under Gilbreth's couple, this guy is here sat and said that every human being in this organization, every employee must do three things. That every employee must be a doer. This is the biggest of them all, a doer. This thing of you saying that you're an accountant of your company, that your role is to sit on some comfortable chair, red one, with nice springs, with nice wheels, and then your work is to roll around and about. You're moving around as you wait for other people to get outside there. They look for business, and then you start accounting for money that you never helped to generate. That's wrong. Everybody is a doer. Everybody must make their hands dirty, in quotes. This thing of delegating everything, even in our own houses, that you are the husband, now you think that they've got the right of, taking other people as slaves. That's wrong. Everybody has to perform some given tasks in that house, in that company. All of us, ladies and gentlemen, are supposed to work in the interests of this company. So all of us, we must be doers. That's number one. Number two, ladies and gentlemen, this is quite huge, that everybody must be a trainer. If you want transformative kind of leadership, ensure that everybody in that company is a trainer, especially this comes in handy for what we call succession planning. Succession planning. Everybody should be able to bequeath the skills that they have to somebody else. We should be able to hand over the baton. We are getting old. Mwalimu Auraye will not teach forever. I need to get the Hassans here and whoever that I should be able to give the baton to as I retire. So everybody must be a trainer. Everybody must be a trainer. In the third and last thing is that everybody should be a trainee. Everybody should be a trainer. And that is why they came and said that for transformative kind of companies, we need what we call coaching and mentorship platforms, mentorship platforms in the organization, coaching and the mentorship platforms. And so I would want to be seeing these great things in your answers. I don't know what type of questions they'll bring, but there are things I would expect to be seeing you guys mentioning. When they ask you about transformative, I expect you guys to be mentioning something like involve employees, coach these employees. When they ask about, for example, resistance, again, in this case here, involve, coach employees. Very, very important that you must also lead by what here? By example. There must be a clear vision. There must be a clear vision. So those at least have been able to teach you about 2 scholars. So in every class, I must teach you guys about 2 scholars and show you how you'll be using their models to answer questions. So can I go now to my next question here? Can I go to my next question? Can I go to my next question? I hope you are together, by the way. I hope you are together. 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 Are we together? Great. Thank you very much. Great, 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 great. Kabisa, yeah. Thank you very much. So then the next question, ladies and gentlemen, is asking us about a very simple thing, really. The next question is asking us here. The next question is question number 2. With respect to foundations of management, I mean, this is a simple thing. Who fails in leadership? Who fails in LM? Why? Why? Differentiate between scientific management approach and a behavioral management approach. Explain 6 applications of the scientific management approach in the manufacturing sector today. Describe 5 steps involved in decision making. So I would want us to start with the first one, Roman 1. With respect to foundations of management, I would want to see whether there is anybody who will be able to differentiate between scientific approach and behavioral management approach. I'm giving you guys 3 minutes. Differentiate between the scientific approach and the behavioral management approach. Let's see abracadabra. Let's see abracadabra. Differences between scientific management approach and behavioral. I'll be able to get every marker there, really. I can't miss even a single marker there. Great. So scientific, I'm being told here, focuses on the task, while behavioral focuses on human needs. Taylor, scientific, and I like the way he's calling him by his name. Great, great. Behavioral, we're looking at people like Maslow, hierarchy of needs. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. You guys, for sure, you have been reading this. You've been reading this. Now, ladies and gentlemen, when we talk of scientific management, I mean, what comes to my mind? Scientific management. Now, this was developed by a gentleman called Frederick Taylor. And to him, he took human beings for robots. To him, it doesn't matter what is going to happen, even if this guy kills himself. What he wanted is maximization of productivity. Maximization of productivity by scientifically analyzing work processes. By scientifically analyzing work processes. By scientifically analyzing, he spoke about two things. He spoke about two things. Frederick Taylor spoke about two things. That we have to analyze processes scientifically. And then he also spoke about what here somebody, standardization of work. So to him, everything in the company is a science. Remember, this is the gentleman who came and told us that, you know what? It was about laying of bricks. So in this case, this is the guy who came and told us that we should be able to measure like how many feet each individual should do in a day. So standardization, how many feet, standardization. And then, of course, like if it's selection of employees, it has to be, the recruitment has to be scientific. Everything, you analyze the work scientifically and ensure that you do what here, you standardize. So if I look at the question very well, ladies and gentlemen, remember, this question is asking about differences between scientific and behavioral. So if I'm the one, I would have spoken about Frederick Taylor, mentioned about these two things, and then I will not forget to mention his core characteristics. His core characteristics, if you recall those core characteristics, ladies and gentlemen, this guy emphasized on efficiency. He emphasized on efficiency. Remember through what we call Pythagoras theorem. Pythagoras theorem, this guy basically was saying, if this is the worker, Pythagoras theorem, if this is the worker, and here, for example, you will cover 3 feet, here you cover 4 feet, you see it is 3, 4, 5 here, principle. Then why, if you're moving from here to here, and you're saying that there is an employee who's going like this, going like that, this guy was always coming up with the very best way of doing things, the shortcuts, efficiency. He emphasized on efficiency and said, hey, you guys, be using the hypotenuse. So never forget the concept of the first characteristic of Frederick Taylor is the concept of efficiency of what here, operations. He also spoke about task specialization. He said that workers should specialize. If you remember this concept of specialization, ladies and gentlemen, the case in hand is the Ford company. The Ford company, initially, these guys here would hire, like say 3,000 workers. And those workers, in this case here would come, like every morning, all of them were doing, like if it's dashboard over vehicle, they're making dashboard, all of them, dashboard, all of them, dashboard, all of them. Or they finish dashboard, for example, they go to some other component like tires, all of them, tires, all of them. So in this case here, they came and discovered that what if out of these 3,000 workers, we have like 500 of them who will study how to do very best dashboards, and then at the end of the day, that becomes their work day in, day out. From the time they come to the company, the time they retire. Then they discover that productivity went up through specialization. And that is the concept of Frederick Taylor, that employees need to specialize. They need to specialize, very important, task specialization. Then we have what we call standardization. And the standardization, remember, the process and methods are standardized to eliminate variability. And of course, what here? Optimize performance. Ladies and gentlemen, then we have, how could you guys not mention this? How could you guys not mention this? Remember, this is the guy who spoke about what here? Top-down. Style of management. Top-down. Top-down. Style of management. Top-down style of management. He said that for models to work very well, then we must always have 4 men. You remember the concept of 4 men? You remember the concept of 4 men? 4 men. We must have functional foremanship. So these 4 men should be able to do the planning and everything, and then they should be able to push whatever they agree, whatever they decide, down the throats of employees, And then he came up with what we call output-based kind of remuneration. Output-based. It depends on how many pieces you've made in a day. Otherwise, you will not be able to earn nothing. You will not be able to earn even nothing. Now, when we talk of behavioral management approach, ladies and gentlemen, here the scholars basically told us to understand and ensure that we know how to manage the human being. So managing the human being basically is all about what here? Motivating these guys, enhancing their job satisfaction, creating a positive work environment. So on the behavioral, here we are looking at the holistic human being, and we are saying 3 things there. And ensure that you create a positive work environment, motivate these employees, and ensure that you enhance their job satisfaction. Key characteristics are which ones, ladies and gentlemen? Quite different from the other one. Here we are emphasizing on human behavior. We are emphasizing on human behavior. We are looking at employee involvement. We must employ these, involve these employees. We are looking at social factors. Never ever underestimate, for example, the grapevine. 𝐂𝐿𝐴𝐴, the grapevine is very, very important, the grapevine. So social factors. The approach recognizes the importance of social interactions, group dynamics, and employee relationships. And then, of course, this one uses what we call bottom-up approach because of the involvement. Bottom-up approach. So in this case, you have employees from down there discussing their issues, and then they bring like how we make budgets. Bottom-up approach. Now, ladies and gentlemen, at a high level, have you understood how those things are like, so that I can go to something different? Of course, I also saw you guys had your own points. But have you understood this at a high level for me to take on a different thing? At a high level. Mine is simply you understand this at a high level, and then I take on different things. Wait, most of them are not even answering whether you are together or they got lost long time. Thank you very much. Behavioral is about the human being, and then scientific is about the job. It's about efficiency. Scientific is about efficiency. Susan has a question, Susan has a question. Scientific is about efficiency. And then don't forget, in this case, you have to quote our best friend, Frederick Taylor, the father of scientific management. The father of scientific management. Now, ladies and gentlemen, in this other question here that they are asking us, if you look at this very well, that is Roman 2. Explain 6 applications of the scientific management approach in the manufacturing sector today. I'll say so many things. Scientific management approach in the manufacturing sector today. I'll say a ton of things. I'll get 8 out of 6 marks. I'll write things that this examiner will end up giving me more marks than I even deserve. So let me give you like 3 minutes. You try thinking through. Let me give you 3 minutes exactly. Tell me in this case here from where you work or even what you imagine, what you think are the key applications. What makes you think that in these manufacturing farms, we have a Frederick Taylor standing there? Nobody's writing foremanship. That if today you go to most manufacturing farms, we have team leaders, we have foremen. If you go to most organizations, ladies and gentlemen, we have output-based incentive systems. Of course, they will give a retainer, but again, at the end of the month, they'll have to count output-based. How comes I'm not seeing anybody talking about task specializations? Task specializations. If you go to breweries today, there'll be just people there who are dealing with the boilers. I don't know what they boil, but I know they are boiler specialists. Task specialization. You guys must have heard of standard operating procedure manuals. If you go today to Serena Hotel, take a cup of tea there. Come after 10 years, the same taste of cup of tea is what you'll get. Because they have what we call standard operating procedure manuals, which, for instance, helps them to standardize all their processes to ensure that their processes are consistent. Let me see what they have. Yeah, like now this concept of scientific selection of employees, yes, I agree that we are able nowadays through these job selection agencies. Yeah, you can easily, it's a science behind that, and you can involve that science. I love that. Division of work, labor, standardization of work and tools, I love that. Task specialization. Centralized personnel department, that I'll give you a mark, yes. Maybe it's foreman or foreman. Do we call it functional payment, Hassan? It's piece rate or output-based kind of payment. The only thing I've not seen anybody mentioning here is the concept of assembly line. The concept of assembly line. But they use assembly lines, for example, like those days I used to take one for the road till I saw the light. You know, before you see the light, you think those alcohol components are very nice. They're very bad for families. They spoil families. They spoil everything. Spoil your future. Everything. So you would hear, like, for example, we have White Cup. White Cup was the best in those days. So like now White Cup, it has an independent assembly line. So line of production in this case here, for consistency. Then we have the others in this case here being taken through what we call a joint operation line. Where in this case here, they come together up to some level. And then once they reach here, we have Guinness, we have not White Cup, but Tusker, we have whatever. But White Cup, it's online from beginning to the end. It's online from beginning to the end. But at least you guys have an idea. Yes. Look at, for example, what Technoman is telling us about Frederick Taylor, maximization of output through scientific analysis of work. This is a very important point. I love this point. Great. Ladies and gentlemen, if you allow me, I will be able to go to the next question here. Which basically wanted us to do very simple things. They wanted us to explain, describe 5 steps involved in decision making. Describe 5 steps involved who doesn't know this? We make decisions every day. We make decisions every day. How do we make decisions here? We make decisions every day. Ladies and gentlemen, remember, to make decisions here, I'll be able to give you an example of how we married, isn't it? Because there must have been a problem. You know, you start by identifying the problem. You identify the problem. Identify the problem. So like in myself, in this case, of course, the problem, I wanted to get married. And why was this becoming an issue? It's because like now I could not go to my home area. Started from with aunties. Everybody now, they were wondering, this guy at the age of 30, why don't you want to marry? What is your problem? Right? So in this case here, there must be a problem at first. Then you sit down and ask yourself, this problem, in this case here, how do I solve this problem? I need a girl. Right? So in this case here, this girl, of course, I'll not wake up and say, hey, it is you, Susan. No. If I'm saved, I must. So in this case here, look for alternative ways of solving this. Look for alternative ways. Alternative ways. Look for alternative ways of solving. So if you are saved, for example, like myself, in this case here, you could have like how many girlfriends? Like 4 of them. Are they girlfriends? Call them fiancés, isn't it? Yeah. So remember, if you are saved, these are just general friends, isn't it? You should have as many as possible. That's what even the church tells us. Have as many as possible. And of course, most importantly, nobody should get to know that you are dating the other one, isn't it? Should be very secretive. Very, very secretive. Right? Otherwise, you'll bring problems. From there, what do? You'll need an appraisal technique. You select an appraisal technique. You select an appraisal technique. Of course, you look at, we have IRR, we have net present value. We have got so many of them. So in this case, you will need to select an appraisal technique. And then now you use this appraisal technique, use the appraisal technique to evaluate this alternative, evaluate. So if it's net present value, you look at, for example, Caro, of course, cash flows. You look at this lady, she's employed, hardworking like this, discount like that. You get NPV. Of course, you'll pay dowry. The dowry that you pay will be the initial outlay. You'll have to deduct that. So others will be getting positive. There are others will be getting negatives in this case here, like that. Of course, at the end of the day, when you evaluate, you will be able to get this. And of course, you will endeavor to look at what here somebody, the one that has the highest output, highest NPV. So in this case here, for example, I could, so in this case here, come and choose the best. You choose the best. You choose the best. So you evaluate and then you make a decision. You make a decision. Evaluate and then you make a decision. After that, now you implement. So once you make a decision, you implement. Ensure that you call us for a wedding. But please remember, if it's an accountant marrying, never invite me to such kind of a wedding. That's a bad wedding. That's a bad one. How can an accountant marry an accountant? Would want people, when you talk of debit credit, they think that you're talking about heavens. So like when you're married to, if you're a gentleman, when you marry like a primary school teacher, that's a good match. Trust you me. A person will respect you forever. But an accountant, no, not very good. If you do it, please don't involve me at all. At all. Great. Now, ladies and gentlemen, in this case, of course, after implementing, it's also very important for you to keep on doing what here? Monitoring. Very, very important for you to keep on monitoring. So this is how you make your, it's called monitoring and evaluation. Any project that you engage in, it's very important for you to come and have what we call an M and E, monitoring and what here? Evaluation. So ladies and gentlemen, out of that crazy example of mine that I've given you, what will you never forget about that, about decision making? We shall overcome. So guys are asking which church. Remember, at courtship, if you court one person, that's wrong, because that is as good as being married, you know. You're not supposed to court. You only marry one person. But courting, you can court many. You can court many. You can court many. You must have alternatives. Na vijana wameenda bila alternatives hapa nje, hawakuwa exposed. Wanapatanga mashida mingi kwa marriage. Mimi naona kama ni afadhali kuwa na alternatives in life. Unakuwa na alternative kidogo na pale hapa na pale namna hii. Usikuje kupata shida kwa ndoa. Step two, remember here we have said the first one is to identify the problem. Then number two, identify alternative ways of solving the problem. Like the ladies here, 4 of them. Even a lady, at this stage, you need like 4 or even 5 men. But now remember, they are general friends, isn't it? General friends, so long as isifike mahali mwanzo kusema leta simu tuangalie, itakuwa international disaster. Itakuwa international disaster. Itakuwa international disaster. Yeah, gathering of information, you know, there is no one rule really for this. You can gather information here or even here before the appraisals are done. You can gather here or here. So long as you've got this is the general. Once you have the general information, that will be it. You can talk of maybe after this immediately you talk of what you gather information. Unaweza pata mwingine after ameolewa, unaweza kusema sasa ati wewe ametoka kwa family ya wachawi. Wewe wacha hiyo maneno. Huku gather information kwa nini? You must gather information. You must gather information. We shall overcome. We shall overcome. Our shopping hapana. Kabla you married, don't depend on any man for survival. Survive your way. Survive your way. Otherwise, utakuja kusema sasa wewe hata nilikupeanga pesa. Ladies are strong. Ladies are strong. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is it. That is it. And if you don't mind, I would want us to call it a session. And I look forward to meeting you tomorrow at what time? Appraisal technique. These are techniques that you use to basically evaluate. Techniques you use to evaluate. Like this could be internal rate of return, net present value. You know, there are also many. So you choose one. But I'm going to use net present value. I'm going to use net present value. So please remember, it will be very important for you to buy this bundle. Like now, Leshamta says that she wants to be paying for her classes one at a time. You will tell me. I would want to know how much you will have spent by the time we finish these sessions. Because like now, Leshamta, today you have spent 400. Tomorrow, 400. Every day, 400. If you come in this case here with this approach, where you simply pay 2,500, and then you are buying a product called Advanced Excel. You are buying in this case here what we call macros. You are buying in this case here what we call the famous for accountants, what we call the famous Power Query. You are buying what we call the Power BI. Power BI. So, and these classes will start from the 24th, and they'll run all the way for 10 days, consecutive days, like that, from 8 p.m. like now to 10 p.m., 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. So these classes, all of them, we are charging for all this bundle, 2,500. And once you pay this 2,500, then automatically you'll be able to get access to all low-hanging fruits sessions. So in this case here, AAA, we have LM, we have AFM, we have in this case here AFRA, like that, and you will be okay. You will be very, very okay. You'll be able to get this for free without paying for them. But should you go 400 per day? Let's see. It will be an international disaster. It will be an international disaster. Great. Now, you see now the questions are coming here. If I had paid 400, can I pay 2,100? No. Now you have to pay for this program. You're paying for this 2,500. You're paying for that. I knew. Yes, now we have a group. We have a group which shall be able to add you, So Lois says she did it last. Lois, you would rather just pay again. This is much better. Or you just go slow and then you let us know whether you'll not pay more than 2,500. Otherwise, thank you very much. Please make this program very, very popular, because I believe this will be your game changer. This will be your game. This program is not a joke. Like Lois attended last semester, AFR, aliniambia, not Lois huyu kweli. AFR aliona low hanging fruits. Ilisaidia sana. So utasaidika. Yes. No. They will have to wait for links here. The ones paying 200 per session, they'll have to wait for links. Thank you so much. Good night. See you tomorrow at 5. Bye.